Yeah, my name's Mark Goskowitz. I'll show you just, I got a couple other tabs opened up. All of the classes, you got the QR code. I know that was already explained of like that gives you the link to this presentation so you don't have to like take your phone out and take pictures of stuff. You've got the pictures, just, go to that code later. And then the presentation, the handouts. I do take the time to type everything out, and then what you'll notice is things are links. Links to recipes and links to even some videos and stuff like that. And you go further on, and there's links to these books that are up on this table. And then I realized that there's even one book that's not on the table that is my favorite book for this stuff because I'm using it. It's preservation time, and so it's on my nightstand. I'm looking up recipes in it, and that's where I left it. And you might ask, what is that book? I think there's a picture of it later on. One thing that, a shameless little plug is that, yeah, I teach a whole bunch of classes, and there's a few times where I'm up here in Massachusetts or northern Connecticut. I'm based in Colchester, Connecticut, so it's down towards like Norwich, a little past Hartford, reference point and everything. I keep a public calendar of where I'm teaching and what the topics are and everything, so you could, if you want to drive along and see those classes. So that's there. We're getting towards the end of the year. My God, this has been a year with 53 of these presentations. I'm a high school math teacher, so I do this on top. I get my kids tomorrow. So I really looked at the calendar. I was like, do I want to do this to myself? And I was like, yeah, I like money. So it's okay. So here's the thing. If any of these classes that I teach, if you wanted to get the pre-recorded version of them, I have those on my website. If you want to learn the mushroom growing, the beekeeping, and all that, the other jazz that I teach, let your director here know that you want me back to teach those classes, or if you're impatient, just give me $30 and then, you get access to all the same stuff. All right, so that's the shameless plugs. This is the demo version. This is the version of this class where I pack a cooler full of food and stuff, and we go through. I got the stuff pre-chopped because nobody wants to see me work with a knife too much. What if I cut myself in the beginning? Show's over. So it's like a cooking show where I got most of the stuff pre-cut except for this one right here. Yes, so other classes I teach, and let's jump in. This class, it did kind of start around this time. No toilet paper, no pasta. Okay, no things that COVID. You remember the run on the shelves and stuff like that. And so this is prepper adjacent. First rule of prepping is don't talk about prepping. Because then people come to your house. But see, here's the thing. This is more of what it is. Who are my gardeners out there? Or aspiring gardeners. It's okay, either way. Good. I look at this. This is a sample little harvest, midsummer. We've got cucumbers and squash, lettuce, mushrooms that are growing right in the garden. That's, again, a class I teach. Carrots, green beans, eggs, potatoes. The tomatoes hadn't come in at that point. This happened to be a harvest where there wasn't fruit from the orchard area yet. But yeah, it's there's a good amount of the stuff that we can preserve, and then there's stuff where it's no. Lettuce, you just have your salads now. We're not dehydrating lettuce. We're not freezing or pickling it or whatever. Many of the leafy things, it's no. But if we had kale in here, kale's part of that cabbage family. There are ways to preserve cabbage, sauerkraut, right? Sauerkraut is preserved cabbage, and because kale is part of that family, it's we could take and preserve kale in that way. And we could make dishes with stuff, make a soup, and then freeze it. So there's other ways. I'm just not making soup out of lettuce. All right, so and then here's the thing. All of these different things, they're going to take different methods are going to preserve textures, flavors. With any one of these things, you're going to lose something in it in order to preserve something. All right, so you think of herb. There aren't any herbs in this picture, but with herbs, it's we want those flavors. Texture doesn't matter so much. We want the flavors. And then, with the green beans and everything, I think of green beans and freezing them or canning them. I want the texture. That's the most important thing for me. I'm not dehydrating them, although I could, and then rehydrate them. Okay, that's one picture. And tomatoes, yes. All right, that is a harvest, of tomatoes when they start coming in and stuff like that. And you got the green one. You got these are meant for pan frying and all that jazz. And then you got, all right, so it's yeah, we all have things that we like to like with tomatoes. Me, I'm not a person who necessarily likes to like freeze the tomatoes and everything and then use them later. I like to prepare them in soups and sauces and then freeze them and use them. I do like to dehydrate some of the tomatoes, so I've got like kind of like sun-dried tomatoes, like ready to go and stuff. But so as we get into this, there might be some of you who might want to like take and preserve these as salsa, preserve these as like other methods, or preserve them whole and then cook with them later. This is a class where I'm going to point you in directions of resources that, you know, and there'll be recipes in here that you can go to later, but I can't like demo everything. All right, so, oh my God, and then yeah, fruit comes in, gooseberry and the fruit. Okay, so what's now? What's now? This was me like a few weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, peaches came in. All right, and like 2 nights ago, peaches were done. I don't spray fungicide, so it's like it's a short window of time to be like, oh my God, we got to do something with all these peaches. Call the neighbors, get everybody over here to pick. I did. It was like friends and family out in the yard picking peaches. And so this is one night where I'm like picking, that's like a 1/4 bushel of peaches. And it's like, what do you do? Okay, well, yeah, I'm in the kitchen. And like, okay, so like these peaches are ready to be bagged up and frozen, or they're, you know, so like that is what I'm making a choice of how are we going to use these in the future. And so this batch of peaches was one where I was cutting off the tops, okay, so that when I peeled them, I didn't have to peel around this stupid fiddly bit. All right? Isn't that a stupid part to peel around? And to get in the hole? So just cut the darn thing off, right? Don't apples have that on the top and on the bottom, that little concave bit? Cut the top, cut the bottom off, peel it really fast. Now, what did I do with these? I tossed them on the dehydrator. Those cutoffs, I didn't throw them away. I could have fed them to the chickens. By the way, all these peels and everything, fed them to the chickens, put them in the compost. All right, they don't go to waste. So I could have taken these and blended them up and put them and made like fruit leather. But I'm not that much into this. I am peeling these and pitting these and then slicing them so that they can be made into like cobblers and made into pies later. Am I baking those? No. My wife and my kids, they're going to have so much fun baking these, and they better, because I packed them away. So I take one of these like little flexible cutting boards, and I get my vacuum sealer bag and I like pour it in the bag. I do that so that the moisture doesn't get on the vacuum bag, so that I get a good seal with that. So I use this as a funnel. Don't worry, there'll be stuff that I show. And here's the other thing. After I pitted them and I peeled them and pitted them and then sliced them, I'm then also treating them. So you're gonna see like, what's in my pantry that I pull out and I use strategically to stop those from turning brown. Nobody wants brown peaches, all right? And so there's a little bit of that. You see the lemon squeezer, it's right there. All right, so there you go. And then they get vacuum sealed. And I'm thinking ahead, how much? I asked Google, I said, hey, an average peach pie, how many pounds of peaches are in a peach pie? It said about 2.5 to 3 pounds. So I bagged them up in 3-pound bags. That was one night. And then I did, and they go in the freezer. And then I dehydrate those. And then we got those as snacks. And this was at my desk at school. So I was like, okay, I brought it in. It's a prop. So we got dehydrated peaches that are my snacks. All right, so peaches. Then I'm like, we still got peaches. And I said to the kids, my daughter was like, can we make smoothies out of them? I'm like, how do I? So it's like, how can we use this? Yes, smoothies, fine. So I blended one up, peel on. I was like, I don't want to peel any more stupid peaches. So I blended them up with the peels on and put in like a little bit of mango and some ice. Here, drink it. Of course they love it. It's peach juice. But they were okay with the skins on it. So what did I do? I got my trays out. I lined them. All I did was have them and pit them. Didn't bother peeling them. That was a lot less labor. And then I freeze them. And then I take these frozen ones. So by the way, I also sprinkled them with the stuff that stops them from browning. Well, you know, I sprinkled them with that. And then I take this and then I bag them up and freeze them. This way they don't stick together. And and then you can take a handful of peaches out for a recipe. And a recipe where people are okay with the peels on them. All right, so, and then, oh my God, green beans. And so that was the harvest on like Monday night. Whereas like edible flowers and stuff, I was like, oh my God, I gotta start blanching some beans again, because it was the second planting of beans. And so I was getting ready to go ahead and freeze these. Again, we're gonna find each one of you as I go through the content of this class of pickling stuff, lacto-fermented pickling stuff, and canning things, freezing things, and dehydrating. I look at this as a class where you're probably not gonna do everything. You're going to pick the one that works for you the best, or the new one that you wanna try, because look at all this stuff. This is all in my cabinets. Okay, I'll shut up. Let's move. Oh, by the way, yeah, freezer. That's my freezer. Look at that organization. We got the Costco stuff in there too. All right, so we got the Costco stuff crammed in, but then it's like peaches, berries, blueberries, turkey, which those we harvested the turkeys and all that jazz. And I bartered somebody for these steaks, and then we froze them in a way so that they're not going to get frostburn. Okay, let's learn best practices. So, yep. That's the class. We will talk about the hot water bath method of canning. So that's using this. That's bringing water up to a boil and canning your jams and tomatoes and stuff like that. But the things that are not in this class are salting and curing, smoking, root cellaring, pressure canning. So I don't have a pressure canner up here. That's not my skill set. I'm not going to teach about something that I don't know how to do. We talked about can you use a pressure cooker, but absolutely. It's not something I do, so I don't teach it. And vinegar and oil. These are other methods of preserving food. They're just not this class. There's too many things to talk about. Wash your hands, wash your food. And with some of these things, do we have city water here? Town water? Yes, no, yes, yeah, okay. So everybody knows whether they have it or not. You know, whether you're paying it or not, you know. So if we're cooking with water and stuff like that, and it's a water that has a treatment in it, that's going to add a flavor to it, we might choose to hold off on that and get that spring water, get that distilled water that doesn't have other flavors in it, doesn't have other stuff in it. That might be a thing that we think about, not for food safety, but for just the flavor profile. We're making food here. Our equipment and everything we want to be clean. So I think of like dishwasher, washing by hands. If we are washing by hands, we're making sure the soap residues are also off of everything. So I used to teach this class with middle schoolers. They can't wash dishes. I mean, they can try, but they leave soap all over everything. So this is a time to like make sure, so soap is gonna impart flavors. If we're doing fermented stuff, soap is gonna kill the beneficial bacteria or hinder it or stunt it. So, okay, the when in doubt, throw it out comes down with all of these. With every single thing here, I've thrown away food because the texture was off, the smell was off, it looked like something was growing in it. I'm like really happy and proud of these dried peaches because you could look at these later. There's no moisture inside the bag. Like there's no excess moisture that would then grow mold. I've done that. I've dehydrated stuff, put it in a bag, and then the moisture forms, but it's sitting in a cabinet, and then the whole thing is a big bag of mold. Okay, so blah, 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 blah. So the when in doubt, throw it out. And yeah, local and fresh. That's one of the big ones because we're preserving food. So I teach this class in winter and it's like, I'm not preserving food that's in winter. Unless it's like a prepared meal. Like this class goes with like, you know, saving food that's already been cooked and stuff like that. So local harvest, CT NOFA, you could look at these together. There's a Mass NOFA, MA NOFA, that's the Massachusetts branch of the New England Organic Farms Association. This is where you can find your CSAs and your community-supported agriculture and organic farms that you don't even know are there, but they're there because they don't have the money to advertise, but they have the money not the money, but they have this group that will advocate for them and advertise them. This is where you can get your local food and also find farmers markets that you didn't even know existed. You can find that little beef farm that will sell you half or a quarter of a cow or whatever, or sell you cuts, and then you can bulk freeze that stuff. Okay, and then there's stuff like flash food, where local grocery stores, before the food is bad, they put it at half price. All right, my local Stop and Shop has stuff like this, and that's where I'll get like meat and stuff like that. And it's like, it's not bad yet. So I buy it at half price, get a good deal on it. Let's move on. Okay, so lacto-fermenting and pickling are two different things, two different types of pickling. So if we had pickles, the two types of pickles that we can get, if we think about cucumber pickles, taking a cucumber and transforming its flavor, texture, and all that jazz and preserving it. There's the pickles that are in the salad dressing aisle, where the ketchup and all that is, and those are at room temperature, right? Room temperature. You can bring them home, leave them in your cabinet, fine, they're good. Those are preserved with acids. And what's the acid? It's vinegar of some kind, vinegar. But then there's the awesome pickles that like our ancestors made before, like, you know, not before vinegars, because vinegars have been around, but when they don't have vinegar. And lacto-fermenting is making like those kosher dills, those cucumbers that are in the cold case. You know those? That have to be refrigerated? That's because they have beneficial bacteria in them, like yogurt. You know, they have lactobacillus bacteria in them that is eating a bit of this cucumber and turning it into acids, and then in that like little jar, it becomes filled with acids that the bacteria made. And that's what makes them sour. That's what makes them tart. That's what makes, you know, have you ever had a half sour pickle? It's a kosher dill pickle that just hasn't fermented for its full length of time. It's kind of stopped part way and gotten half sour. So that's why it tastes kind of like a cucumber and kind of like a pickle. So let's get there. So that's where we start. We start with salt. So we're gonna do lacto-fermenting and do a little recipe here, and you can see how I'm gonna talk through it way longer than it takes to make it. All right, I'm basically gonna take and like cut the cucumber up, put it in a jar with some stuff, and then put salt water over it. The salt water is going to make sure that the food that's in there is submerged below that water line and that oxygen can't get to the food. So if oxygen can't get to the food, the only thing that lives in there, in that saltwater environment, is going to be beneficial bacteria that, like a saltwater environment, that have evolved in that brine. And see, where's the bacteria come from? This. Well, I mean, me. If I don't take a shower, I get smelly. If you leave this on your counter, it rots. But, so here's the thing, you're leaving it out in the oxygen. Bad bacteria that we can't eat will break this down and break it apart and turn it into something that's inedible. But if we take this and put this in a saltwater environment, the bad bacteria that would destroy this on our countertop and make it go rotten, they die in the saltwater environment. The beneficial bacteria end up thriving, eating little bits of this. All right, so remember I taught middle schoolers? The bacteria eat the sugars in this, and it farts out carbon dioxide. Okay? I know it doesn't really have like buns and cheeks, and it actually really farts, but it farts out, see, good. All right, farts out carbon dioxide. That means that like a soda can, this thing gets pressurized. Like carbon dioxide builds up in this. Success, so I'm telling you that because that's a sign that like your pickles that are chugging along and that are fermenting, if you do this, and you hear a little pressure, that means carbon dioxide is building up in there. And that's a good sign that beneficial bacteria are doing what they do. It's not a sign that it's ready to eat. That's when okay, so, so it farts out the carbon dioxide and creates lactic acid. And that lactobacillus, lactic acid, is something that is formed. So, okay. The bacteria for that whole process comes, if I take this to the sink and I wash it, just like me, if I wash me every day, aren't there little nooks and crannies on me that the bacteria still come back every day? Still washing this at the sink, there's still gonna be little bits of bacteria in here that are bad and good. And by putting them in the saltwater environment, we get the good ones to thrive. Okay, so look at that. Which salt is going to be the one that we don't want to use? Two are good. What's probably one of the good ones? What do you think? What do you think? Oh, we got Morton iodized salt. We got pickling, canning salt. We got kosher salt. Which one's the one that's like, yeah, to use that? Yeah, the one that says pickling, right? It's got it in the name, okay. And then the kosher one, you said, oh, he's got a knife, sorry. Then the kosher one, this one's got iodine in it. Have you ever had iodine rub before surgery? It's to kill stuff. We don't want to use this because it'll kill the beneficial bacteria. So that salt, regular table salt is not what we're using. This is also not a time to pull out and do the pink Himalayan sea salt and no, that's I'm mixing the two. The Himalayan salt and the sea salts, they're going to have other elements in them that could throw off the process. So we're just going with straight salt. Now, why might I use one versus the other? Pickling salt is very fine grained. So that means when I take my water and I take a scoop of pickling salt and put it in the water, it's going to dissolve really fast because it's very fine. It's like, it's powdered. This is kosher salt. It's heavier grained. It's going to work. How much did I put in there? There's a certain ratio to put in here. Did I just shake this up? How much? This is a quart. Somewhere between 2 and 3 tablespoons. Do you see how there's wiggle room with that? All right. Now, not less than 2 tablespoons, because then it's not salty enough to stop the bad bacteria from growing. And not more than 3 tablespoons, because then it's going to be so salty you don't even want to eat it. You've had that kind of food, right? Okay. So what am I doing? I'm just shaking this up until like those like little granule. You know, if I used warm water, wouldn't it dissolve better? But no, I don't got warm. I just got this. This is my tap water, my well water. Okay, so I've got salt water ready to go. You guys ready? This is like easy stuff. Let's make pickles. So, okay, I got cucumbers. Now, I sliced off one end of the cucumbers, but not the other end. I could slice off both ends. This end is the stem end that comes from the plant, and the blossom end is the part of the plant that keeps growing. It has enzymes in them, and those enzymes, if I make pickles with them, those enzymes will continue to like make the cucumber like soggy in that salt water. Have you ever gotten those giant cucumber pickles from the deli, and one end of it's always soggy? It's because they don't cut it off. They're just making those giant. Well, anyway, all right. I got a grape leaf. Put the grape leaf in. Does anybody know what the grape leaf is doing? Serves a purpose. Serves a purpose. It has tannins in it. And the tannins preserve texture. So the cucumbers themselves, they'll be fine, but they'll be even more crisp with a grape leaf or two in there. Have you ever had pickled grape leaves in the Greek dolmas? Those little yeah, so like I could just do a whole jar of like grape leaves and make pickled grape leaves. All right, so anyway, I got one grape leaf in there, and then now I'm thinking here, what's the other little flavors? I got these like little tiny onions. I don't know, little tiny, who cares? I don't even gotta peel it. Got a little clove of garlic. I just give a little smash, a little clove of garlic in the jar. I got this. What is this? This is that on my slide here? Pickling spice. If you read a recipe, it's going to say, oh my God, do I got a recipe here for pickles? Spices to taste. Black peppercorns? Sure. Or red peppercorn flakes. Mustard seeds. Ingredients, maybe some horseradish. Some things for spice or whatever. So here's the thing. What's inside there? There's peppercorns and there's like coriander and there's bay leaf. There's a whole chili if I want to put that chili in there. Basically, it's like a little tablespoon is about all I need. Even a half a tablespoon. So what am I doing? I'm just adding flavors to this. I could make this with just salt water and cucumbers. But do you get that I'm adding other things because they're going to add other flavors? So I got a jalapeno from the garden. All right. By the way, I put this in the jar. Oh, that just rubbed my hand there. I put that in the jar, and now I've got a pickled jalapeno that I can eat later too, which I do enjoy. So as I'm shoving this in, I'm also just kind of keeping an eye. That cucumber, it's a little too tall, so I'm going to slice part of it off so it just stays, below there. I'm just talking through it as I'm shoving stupid cucumber halves in here. Yeah, that was 3 cucumbers, and then now it's like things aren't falling out. Salt water, oh my God. So I'm adding salt water, and all I'm doing is leaving head space. A little bit of space at the top for air to build up in there. That's it. It's this now plus time. How long? Well, in about one day, tomorrow, if I bring this to the sink, and I bring this, by the way, this top is just finger tight. If I crank it down, and this pressure builds up in here, I could have broken glass in my kitchen. So people who make pickled peppers end up with pickled peppers all over their ceiling because they're pickled pepper messes. By the way, to make pickled peppers, you take peppers, you put them in a jar with salt water, and then do this same thing. You just wait. Okay, tomorrow, I bring this to the sink and I just do this. I'll hear a little. That's loud. That's loud. You can hear that, but like it'll be very faint. The day after, I'll bring it to the sink. I'll do that. The top will probably be bowed because there's enough pressure in there. So after about 3 or 4 days is when this is like half sours, and then about 5 to 7 days or so is when they're full sours, kosher dills, ready to go. Now that's on the countertop, chugging along at room temperature. Is your house the same temperature as my house? How do you know? All right, so if your home is on the cooler side because you got the air conditioning running, it might take longer. If you're trying to make pickles in wintertime, it's going to take longer because your house is colder. If you don't have air conditioning in your house, this might chug along so fast that you might get off flavors. You're like, oh, why does it taste like weird? It might mean that you actually have to slow it down by taking this and putting it in the basement and letting it ferment in the basement. So I just find a spot in my kitchen that's like out of direct sunlight, off to the side, and I let it sit on the counter for about a week, and then I open it up and I use common sense. I look at it, see does everything look good, I smell it, okay, still smells like a pickle, open it up, take a knife, a fork and a knife and cut off a little tiny bit, and and then see does it taste like a pickle. If it tastes like a pickle, good. Now we stop the fermentation process by putting this in the refrigerator. Now that brings the bacterial growth to like a real crawl. They'll still grow, but at a really slow pace. Not enough for this to explode in your refrigerator. So that means that there's a shelf life on this. I've had cucumber pickles in my refrigerator for a solid year. Pull them out, open them up, they're complete mush. They're disgusting. They can't last a year. But another vegetable that is really tough and fibrous, carrots. I've had pickled carrots that I made. They were in the refrigerator for a full year and they're still got a snap. They still got some crispness because it's a carrot. It takes a lot to make a carrot mushy. All right, so it doesn't take much to make a cucumber mushy. So how long are these good for? A month is like that optimal time to eat them. 3 months, you're pushing it. After that, chop it up and turn it into relish. Because who cares what it is when it's relish, right? But that's how you get relish, is just chop it up pickles. Questions on this? Yeah.
For the carrots you were talking about, like, were you slicing them or were they?
How do you, it's however you want. They could be whole. You could take a bag of baby carrots that are peeled, put them in a jar with salt water, done. You could, but or you could julienne them. You could slice them into little carrot chips.
And they would still last a year?
And so yeah, that's the thing, is that as time goes on, texture is going to, and the thinner, the smaller you slice it, the sooner it'll lose its texture. So in general, yeah, so other questions? Yeah, go for it.
So I do pickling cucumbers.
Yeah.
I got too many at once, so I put them in my fridge in a black bag.
Great.
They've been in there for like 2 or 3 weeks. Are they past the point of pickling?
So it's worth a try. Here's what I'd say with that, is that it's totally worth you experimenting with the process to learn the process with them, to be like, okay, these are old cucumbers, but can I get them to at least smell and taste like pickling cucumbers? The texture probably won't be there because you're lost some texture in that 2 weeks in the fridge. But those are, think about grocery store cucumbers that we get. They can be pretty old by the time they get to us. All right, those are still probably fresher than grocery store cucumbers. So it's still like, use common sense. When I was pulling cucumbers out from my refrigerator that I'd lost track of, I'm like giving them a squeeze. And I'm like, ooh, no, this one's like a firm cucumber, I'm gonna use that. So I'd use the firmer ones. Now, pickling cucumbers, it's really that they're bred to be short so that you have to do less slicing. Could you make this with other types of cucumbers? Yes and no. Like the long English cucumbers, when you pickle them, their texture is just off. There is something about these being small and dense that they have a really good texture and they preserve well. Other questions? We move on. Yeah.
Actually, two.
Yeah.
Cucumbers, so how about the little mini ones you get like at Costco? Can you do those?
Yeah, and I have done that because
repeat
those
her question?
because like the small mini cucumbers.
No.
Could you?
What did she say?
Yeah, she said that the small mini cucumbers
Oh,
that you get at the grocery store. Could you pickle those little ones? And so you can. They're not pickling cucumbers, so even in that small stage, they're also a different variety. They're going to have a different texture. Pickling cucumbers really are the best kind of use for this. Second question?
The other one was, what other than carrots and cucumbers, would be ideal for something like that?
What other vegetables?
Yeah.
Yep, we'll get there. We'll get there soon. Last?
The,
How about last one?
You were saying about the cap, you put the cap on, you just want the cap to breathe, basically?
So I don't want it to breathe. I want it on tight enough so that it can't breathe. Oxygen can't get in. That's good. That's a good question. I want it finger tight to stop air exchange.
Okay.
But if pressure builds up, I want it only finger tight so that excess air can force itself out. If that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a rubber seal on it?
There's a rubber seal on it. And so here's the thing. Could I make pickles in this? Yes. Like acids are going to build up. It's, plastic, it's a plastic container. You want food grade and all that jazz. And are we worried about microplastics and everything? I'm going to die of something. It's probably not going to be microplastics. Or maybe it is. I don't know. Again, like this is one where it's like tried and true. We could freeze in this glass jar. We could put dehydrated things in this glass jar and avoid plastics. But you'll see that I use a lot of plastics. So let's move on. What else is in my pantry? It's like, well, other spices and stuff like that. These, you'll notice I didn't put dill in it. It's because there's no dill in my garden right now. If I wanted them to be dilly and I got dried dill, I would use like a little eighth of a teaspoon, like a little pinch, because a little bit of dill goes a long way. All right, you can make it so overpowering. Other things though, this one, Extra Crunch, that's one of the things that is right here. It's calcium chloride, that's all it is. It's like seashells. It isn't seashells, but it's like seashells. All right, I've had somebody say, well, couldn't you use just ground up seashells? And say, you probably could if it's calcium chloride. Yeah, so what is this used for? This is a substitute for the grape leaf. All right, so this is sold on store shelves because it preserves texture when you don't have, so all right, now I said the grape leaf. There's 3 leaves that I know that have high levels of tannins that are also like, in the edible family and stuff like that, where you can put them in your edible foods, and that's grape leaves, oak leaves, and raspberry leaves. I'm sure there's other ones. I think fig leaves is another one, but it's like I know those 3 have high levels of tannins and will preserve texture. There's going to be others. So you think of your yard. You got some wild grapes growing. You could bag up a bunch of these, put them in a Ziploc bag, take the air out and put it in the freezer, and then you can make pickles anytime you want. So same thing with oak or raspberry leaves. Okay, oh my gosh, okay. So if you want, let's, just a couple other recipes. So we could make sauerkraut, not with brine, but with just salt and maybe a few spices. What we do is we want to use maybe like a kosher salt that has a nice grit to it, big crystals and everything, and we chop up the you slice it up, dice it up, and then you massage the salt against the leaves. And what happens is the salt, if you've cooked with salt, put salt on anything and left that vegetable for a while, it pulls moisture out of it. And then when you pack, so go watch a show on Netflix, and then you come back, add your spices, and start packing it into a jar. And as you pack it in, you want to make sure that there's no air in there. You push it down as hard as you can. You get like a, really, really tight. And what happens is, as the air gets pushed out and you are pushing down those leaves, the liquid that's on those leaves rises, and that's your brine. It's a saltwater brine made from the liquid that's in that. And so, yeah. So here's one thing where, I don't know if you can see this. So we get a couple specialty items. If you like fermenting and it's something that you want to do, you might find yourself buying these little glass weights. This is called a fermentation weight. I would put this in the jar to hold food down that might be floating up, so that it stays below that water level, the air level. and it stays under the water. So could cabbage float around? Yes, it's a messy thing, so I put a fermentation weight in. And then I'm bringing it to the sink and doing my like little burp and listening for like that and everything. Now, so some of these things, look at all these little air bubbles that are forming. Those little air bubbles, sometimes with sauerkraut, you got to push it down and take the whole top off mid-ferment, push everything down, and then you might have to top it off with more brine, make more salt water separately, just to keep everything underneath that. Because it can be a really active ferment, old school way of, I got one of these that holds like 12 heads of cabbage. Those old crocks, you see them in an antique shop. You know what's missing from them besides the top? Is the weights. Or they would use rocks and put the rocks on top of all of that lettuce, that cabbage, on top of that, remember not lettuce, cabbage, and hold it down, and then you'd use water here to create a seal. Not a rubber gasket, but a water seal. Anyway, and so my friend John, he's borrowing that right now. All right, so we got weights, this. If you get, remember the pickled peppers one? Pickled peppers one? The pickled peppers might ferment so fast that it actually pushes liquid out while you're away at work, while you're doing your day. So I tend to check on my jar babies in the morning, give them a burp in the morning, and then give them a burp in the afternoon. But some things ferment so fast and so rapidly and build up so much CO2 that we break out one of these. We take out like the little lid that's here, keep using the ring, and we put in this little fermentation lid. It's just like a little nipple. You say that with middle schoolers. It's like a baby bottle, all right? It has like a little hole in it that when pressure builds up lets the air out, and that's a handy thing to have if you really get into this and you find that your countertop has liquid on it. You're like, oh my God, I got to put a pan under the. So other things that you can do with this, you can make dilly beans. We did the cucumber. I'm going to skip through that. Oh my. So take some carrots, some ginger, garlic, and radishes. Pickle them all together. You got pickled carrots and pickled radishes, and you got this like that awesome like ginger flavor and the spice of the garlic. Beets and salt water make pickled beets. I haven't found any spice that's even worth adding to this because pickled beets are their own like either wonderful thing or disgusting thing, depending on your opinion of pickled beets. All right, my wife is like, it's dirt. Now it's fermented dirt. And for me, I'm like, oh my God, I love this. All right, so anyway, pickled beets, like I'm not just on its own, sliced very thin. All right, the cabbage, eggs. All right, so when you get to high fat things like eggs or what's that? That's a hunk of meat that's going to be turned into corned beef. Corned beef is just the meat sitting in a brine. Sometimes you add a bacteria to that to kick it off. You add some whey to it, and so it's like, yeah, it's like what are the other vegetables that we could be doing? It's like there's so many types of vegetables that we can submerge in saltwater brine, and it will transform them and build those bacterial colonies that preserve them. So those are some pickled peppers, and so all right. Anyway, so all right. I teach a whole nother class that's on that where we get deeper into those other recipes, the other recipes. So we're moving beyond that type of pickling. You ready? Ready to jump? All right. Dill pickle spears. This is from one of my favorite books that I got. It's the how the brand here is Ball jars. They make a preserving book, canning book that just is awesome. It's all of these, and that's the one that's on my nightstand. It's the one I didn't bring. When I read this recipe, it says 3 cups white vinegar. 3 cups of vinegar. That's a lot of acid. This is a stovetop method. This is not lacto-fermented. This is a canning one. Or this is taking, cucumber slices like that. And what do I got here? I got from last night some apple cider vinegar that was prepared on the stove. There we go. Cucumbers in the apple cider vinegar. There's like a little spicy mix in there stuff too. I follow a recipe. This now goes in the refrigerator. These are refrigerator pickles. If I eat those cucumbers now, have they absorbed any of the sourness yet? No, so let them sit for a few days in the refrigerator, then they become sour. Well, how do I take this and like preserve it? So how do we take that and then get it to be in a jar? Do you guys remember those other pickles that are by the ketchup and salad dressing, those shelf-stable ones? That's where we do a hot water bath method. I could take these kosher dills and then put them in a hot water bath. That's gonna kill the beneficial bacteria in here, but they already taste like pickles. It will create a seal on here that's a vacuum seal that's then ready to go on the shelf at room temperature because of the acid levels that are in here. So finished pickles. Or these I might have done on, so if you read this, this is typically a stovetop method where I'm heating up, not the cucumbers, but I'm heating up the brine, the vinegar. So get 3 quarts, so in a 3-quart stainless steel enameled saucepan, bring it to a boil. I'm boiling the vinegar, and then I'm ladling that hot vinegar over these pickles. So this is not true like refrigerator pickles. Do you guys get what I mean? It's not true like, do you guys get that I have to like, I'm heating up the vinegar as well, and that's gonna help, that heat is gonna help to infuse it. I'm bringing that vinegar and spice mixture up to a boil. We're in a room where I don't got time to cook and heat things up. Do you get that? All right, we're taking a shortcut here. So anyway, this is one that then we can either put it in the refrigerator and they'll be good to eat in a few days, or we can make them shelf stable. So that's where we jump into. Pickling veggies and stuff like that. You can look at, I know you can't read this from a distance. What is this? These green ones are from that Ball Canning book. It's an awesome set of recipes. If you want spicy dill pickled vegetables, Mediterranean pickled vegetables, Mexican pickled vegetables, Szechuan pickled vegetables, each one of these is just saying, take any of the vegetables in this list, chop them up, put them in a jar, and then combine it with these spices and this type of vinegar, white vinegar, these spices and red wine vinegar or balsamic vinegar, these spices and apple cider vinegar, these spices and white or rice wine vinegar. What we get is we get different like regional ethnic pickles from around the world. The flavors of like your grandma that are like here that you've been craving, or the flavors from that food truck, the flavors from the restaurant that are the places that you like to go, and they're like, oh man, they got those. What are they doing? They're just mixing different spices with different vegetables. And here I am teaching a class on stupid, boring kosher dill pickles. But do you get that this goes way farther? All right? Same thing. Change up the spices in this, change up the veggies in this. You have a different recipe. Same thing with the canning one. Okay. So it's not a class where I'm getting into the recipes. You look at those later. Because, if I went down a bunch of recipes, a bunch of people wouldn't be interested in them. So let's do the hot water bath method. This is for acidic foods only. So we are going to be preserving food in jars, not with that lid. No, right? This is an important thing here. I have this here, so I say not with that plastic lid, because that's not going to create a vacuum seal. I want these glass jars with that little rubber gasket, and what we're going to do is we're going to be holding that little gasket against the glass as we heat up the food and the liquid inside in boiling water. That heats up the air that's in there at the top, pushes air out, and then when we pull these out and let them cool, that little area of air at the top expands and pulls this lid down, creating a vacuum. That's it. Yeah, oh yeah, it makes that delightful little, no, that's boring. But yeah. You talked about, you doing canning with grandma and stuff like that. We hear those like little pings, and so like that's the vacuum that's being formed. A proper vacuum sealed jar is one where you could take the ring off and like do this, and all the food wouldn't push that out. It would stay stuck on. And so they actually tend to be stored just like that. Because if you see stuff seeping out, you got a bad jar and you throw it out. There's, that's why that practices. So let's get down that. This is for acidic foods. Fruits are acidic. Tomatoes are acidic. Pickles, cucumbers are not acidic, but because of the vinegar in them, or the acids in them, those are acidic foods. So this is not for beef stew. Beef stew is not acidic. That would be a pressure canning thing. So, okay, we go down this road. So this is like jellies and jams and all those things. Lots of optional tools here. I used to can just with like my like lobster pot, and like I used to like put the jars in by hand and everything. So yeah, we want them to do. Oh, we get like little tools. You see that little thing? So part of this process is kind of preheating everything, making sure everything's warm. I like to take all of these apart and not put them in the boiling water, but put them in my dishwasher and just hit the sanitize button, because then it heats it, preheats it, and sanitizes everything. Done. But what some people do is they'll take the same pot that they have and they'll put all the lids, all the things in there. What is this silly little tool for? It's a magnet to get that out of the bottom of the boiling water. Okay, you know, so why are people preheating everything? Well, one's to sterilize stuff, sterilize the jars and lids. The other thing is that like old-timey glass jars, I found them hiking in the woods. They are thin. They are thin, and they can't take the shock from going from hot to cold, cold to hot, putting hot food in there. So modern day glass jars are thick. I've never had a glass jar break. I mean, knock on my wooden cutting board here, but it's still to avoid that shock. So let's go in. So yeah, we get tools that you can buy. The things that I would say that are really handy, if you don't have this basket, is this little thing for picking up your jars, putting them in. My God, the days when I used to do this with like pot holders and pouring water out, so stupid. And then I like learned that there are tools for this. The funnel, this funnel that's made to keep your rim clean and to get the food in there and the water in there, that is an essential tool to have. And so there's a kit that has these three things in them that you can find on grocery store shelves, Walmart, Tractor Supply, whatever, Amazon. They've got them. The big box stores have these. What is this little silly tool for? This one is for, it's got a little notch on the side for measuring headspace. Thank you. For measuring headspace. A recipe will say, hey, tiny jars of jam need only 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch of headspace. A bigger jar like this might need 3/4 of an inch or an inch of headspace. The airspace in there is what helps to create the vacuum. If you have too much or if you fill this all the way to the top, when you heat it up, you're not going to push air out in between the seal. You're going to push liquid out, and then the liquid is going to possibly stop it from forming a proper vacuum. Headspace is more important in this than it is in lacto-fermenting. So that's why we talk about it. No. Okay, things that are in my pantry for this. Might still be, I don't need this top, might still be the calcium chloride. If I'm making pickles, vinegar-based pickles, and this isn't gonna necessarily cut it when I'm heating. I'm going to be taking boiling, just off the boil vinegar and pouring it over cucumbers. Do cucumbers cook very well? They turn to mush. This stuff is almost essential for getting some crisp cucumbers from it. But then pectin, I'm going to have in my pantry for jellies and jams. Pectin is naturally found in fruits. And the less ripe it is, the greener it is, the more pectin the fruit has in it. But as it ripens, it has more sugars in it. And the pectin is what will help your jellies and jams set up and be more solid, more spreadable. If you don't use that, which I have, you get syrups. You get syrups instead. Citric acid I might be using in some recipes. So that's what this is. It's just citric acid or lemon juice. Citrus acids. So I might be using this in a recipe or a recipe might call for these in order to bump up the acidity in the jar. So if I'm preserving apples, it might say add some citric acid or add some lemon juice. Why might I not use lemon juice? It might be because I might want my fruit to taste like lemon. You know, I might use this with something because it's not going to impart flavor. Citric acid, by the way, if you wanted to come up and have this like later, it's the same stuff that makes Sour Patch Kids sour. So you taste this and you're like, oh, no. Okay. Yeah. So this is not the time to use raw honeys and stuff like that. So if a recipe calls for table sugar, you know, like regular granulated sugar, we're using that. Raw honeys, I'm a beekeeper, and like honey brings life to the party. We are trying to store and preserve things without like microbes being part of the mix. And this could introduce botulism to the recipe. And you can't smell or taste botulism. You know, so all right, we move on. Okay, so what's the process with this? Yes, filling the jars, getting the headspace right. Also cleaning the lip, getting rid of any air spaces in there, and then getting this on finger tight, just like the other ones, and then submerging them in the water. And then there's a certain amount of time. And here's what I'd say. I love this thing, you know, bringing this to class. I look at this, it's like $30 to $40 you can find this with this basket. If you fill it up this high, when you drop in a whole bunch of these smaller jars, it will displace enough water to go over the top of them. And so that saves you time on like, how much water do I need to put in to boil? I got to bring that water to a boil, right? Okay. If you fill it up this high, it'll cover those jars, those quart-sized jars, when you submerge them under the water. Those silly lines are like worth it. But the basket, you want the basket. We've got boiling water that's over these jars, and I'm lowering them carefully in. I didn't even need a pot holder for that. I probably need a pot holders for this now, because when I pull them out later, because these are now hot. But I get my little pot holders and I pick it up, and now, okay, and now I take my pot holder and I'm putting that on the counter, and I'm letting these, you know, cool off on the counter. I bring this so that you can see, if you're getting into canning, you want that. You want it. It's worth it. And then you can cook a lobster in it too. It's a multitasker. Okay, we're going to move on. Let's see. What was the... Yeah. That vacuum seal that you hear there. So I want to inspire you, hopefully, to try different things. This is a list of things that can go wrong with your jars. You look at that later. Okay? Again, where are we here? So there are little guidelines. We can pass a couple of these down. All right, and then they just make their way to one side of the room, and then have them work their way back up here. So these little guides, you can take a look at them. What you're probably going to be faced with, I want to can this, so what am I going to have to do? Or, holy peaches, I got peaches out the wazoo. Like me, right? This is a good peach year, what do I do? Or I went to the farmer's market, I got a good deal on this. How can I prepare it? And that's where, you know, our friend Google tends to have good advice, and then like looking up these. What I want you to see in this is vocab, raw pack versus hot pack. It is what it sounds like. Raw pack means I'm taking peaches, packing them in here raw, and then I'm ladling hot syrup over them, and then putting them in. Hot pack means I'm putting peaches in here with the syrup, bringing it to a boil, and then I'm ladling in the hot peaches into the jar. It's whatever you care to do. I like the syrup to be on its own. I like the peaches to be on their own. So I do raw pack. Now, so here, that tells you the what to do. It also tells you how heavy, how thick of a syrup do you need. The sugar is also going to preserve these. It's not just the acids in the fruit, but it's also the sugar. So a light or a medium syrup is fine enough for peaches, but you know, pineapple, well, I don't know, pineapple, pears, and let's see, where's there one? Yeah, apples, apricots. There are some that you can, you know, you have to kick up the sugar levels in order for them to preserve right. And what I want you to see here is that this one is saying that if we did raw pack and we did a quart jar, and we're raw packing them, that it would be 30 minutes in the hot water. And if I do hot pack, well, they're preheated, and I put them in here, that's 25 minutes for a quart-sized jar. So the size of the jar matters. This is where you want to look up a recipe. This is food safety, right? So you want to match things up. It's worth taking time to just get everything in order because you're going to be doing this the right way.
So basically,
Yeah.
are these peaches going to then get soft because they've
Yeah.
kind of been cooked?
Yeah, so the ones, that's exactly it. The ones that are going to be like raw packed, and then the syrup is added on, they will have preserve more of their texture and maybe be better for like something that's a little firmer, pie filling or something like that. While the ones that were hot packed and also cooked in here for 30 minutes or 25 minutes in here, they're also going to be like even more softer, even more softer.
More soft.
More soft, thank you. You're right. And so like maybe I still want to use that for a pie, or maybe I want to use something, do something else. All of this, you're keeping in mind, how are you going to use this down the road? I've personally found that my family will use the stuff that I preserve, not when it's canned. They'll use it more often if I freeze it. So do you guys hear that I've moved away from doing that, except for jellies and jams? Jellies and jams, I'm using the hot water bath method because I want those to be shelf stable. I don't want them all in my refrigerator. I want them to be shelf stable. I want to give them out as gifts. So yeah, go for it.
I'm curious for the processing time for the pears and pineapple. Is
Yeah.
there no differentiation between raw pack and hot pack for those?
So here, this one says hot pack only.
Got it.
That's right. So as you read the recipes, you see some fruits, it's like recommended that just you got to do the hot pack versus, raw pack isn't an option. And that's what I wanted you to see with this. Now, tomatoes. Tomatoes are a favorite for many people, and like some people come to the, and that's what I want you to see with this. Did anybody make tomato sauce or whatever, canned tomatoes with their grandma or family members? Way back when, a lot of people have those memories. She probably wasn't putting them in the bath for an hour and 25 minutes. But this is what the recommendation is. Again, to avoid, I want you to see that like modern day, knowing things. So this is tomatoes packed in their own juices. So you got tomatoes and you are shoving them in the jar and smushing them to get all the air out so that they're just packed in their own juice. All right, just like the sauerkraut, pushing them down as hard as you can. Those are going to be processed for an hour and 25 minutes. And then packed in water, packed in water. Again, the time cuts down to just 45 minutes for that one because they're already hot packed and then in water. This kind of preserving can also be done with like chutneys and salsas and all of that as well. You'll see similar things for like processing time, but then you've got prepared foods. So canning can be a lot, but it's always, what I want you to know is it's hard to do like a canning class and teach everything because you're going to have to look up a recipe. You're going to have to do that. You're going to be like, I want to do this, and so you look up that recipe and you find the way that you want to preserve it. Cool. So yeah, again, tomatoes can be canned because they're high in acids, just like the fruits and everything. Before we move on, any questions? Yeah, go for it.
What parts of the jar can you reuse? Can you use little regular sauce?
Great. Yeah. So yeah, you can reuse that. That and this. And you should buy these every time you're doing a new batch of canning. If I'm doing lacto fermenting, where the vacuum seal isn't as important, I can keep reusing this lid over and over and over for my kosher dill pickles, because the seal isn't as important as getting this to be a vacuum seal. Yeah, so you are replacing that. Other questions? Yeah, go for it.
I have in my freezer some strawberries and raspberries.
Yes.
That have now been there for a year.
Yeah.
When I defrost those, can I use them to try to make something out of them?
I'd say why not, right? Like, it's worth a try. Like, they've been in there a while. As long as you're not seeing that they're like freezer burned, that's going to be like one of the things that's a sign that like you've left them in there too long or they weren't sealed properly. That's where I get into I tend to freeze a lot of my fruit, just like you're saying, and then I've got that, and then people in my family are like, okay, we're gonna make peach ginger jam, peach ginger preserves, and they're so the freezer buys us time to can later in the winter, Yep. Yeah, go for it.
So if you're gonna take fruit, can you, can it from frozen, or do you have to thaw the fruit out first? Like what he was just saying. You have to
Yeah,
thaw
probably
it
thaw.
first?
Probably thaw. Because, so yeah, we're talking room temperature food here and all of those processing times.
Right.
So thaw. One thing I would say about processing times, when you take the food and you're putting it, all those jars and putting them in the water, that's gonna stop the boil. The timer starts when the boil returns. So if it says process for 20 minutes, you're supposed to wait for the water to come back to that boil again, then start the timer. Right? Okay, so otherwise that's gonna, these are best practices. That's cool. All right, freezing. It is basic, but I've thrown away a lot of food. Who else has thrown away lots of food? Has anybody grown stuff in the garden, you froze it, and then you throw it away later? Yeah. Do you know, oh my God, do you know how many beans and squash I've thrown away over the years because I froze them, and then I eat and then I cook a meal with the beans, and then I eat the beans, I'm like, this is mush, it's disgusting. And it's because I didn't know about blanching. I didn't know about the importance of it. A lot of the times I'm taking my tomatoes and I am roasting them, and then I'm pureeing them, and I'm turning them into a soup. Like these are my practice. A lot of times I'm freezing peaches. I'm freezing berries. The berries I'm freezing whole. And the peaches, you'll see, I treat them. Mushrooms and stuff like that. Mushrooms, I'm thinking of how am I going to use those? And I'm going to slice them up into like little slices and then freeze them. These are shiitake mushrooms grown on logs. I teach a class about that. You get buckets of mushrooms. And they're awesome and everything. You can't eat all of this all at once. So I am either dehydrating them or freezing them. Herbs, pestos. Yeah, I'm breaking out like the little ice cube trays. I'll be honest, this is like my favorite ice cube tray. Did you ever think about that? Not the paper ones. But like this, you take this part off, you fill all this up with pureed herbs. The pesto doesn't have to be basil. It can be cilantro. Blend it up with like olive oil. The oil in that case is going to coat all of the leaves. And when you freeze them, it's going to make it so that there's that oil layer over everything so it doesn't brown. It's going to stop it from oxidizing. And then you pop all of these out and you put them in a bag, and you've got pesto that's basil pesto that you can toss in a sauce later or in a dish later. Or if you got cilantro, there's I go to this out in Danbury, Connecticut. There's an Indian not restaurant, but it's a market, and I go there and I buy curry leaves and I blend up the curry leaves because it's like the only place where I can't grow curry leaves. So I blend the curry leaves and then I make pesto out of it and then freeze it. And this is not my freezer. You saw a picture of my freezer. I got inspired by like pictures like these where I'm like, I could do a better job. You saw my freezer earlier. Things are ordered. Man, Prime Day came and I was like, I'm buying my bins. So what I found out is that the bins are basically the same price now. It seems that they jack up the prices before. I don't know, whatever. I can buy them basically for the same price. I have really been enjoying this, the organization of the freezer with the bins, because you can pull a bin out and get to the stuff. You know what it's like to have stuff just higgledy-piggledy in the freezer and you throw it away because you forgot about it. You can put all of your food, you can group things and be like, okay, we have, what do we need more of or what? All right, anyway, I'm a big fan of the bins. All right, so freezing. Vegetables should be blanched. And so I'll pass around a couple of these, again, back and then up front. These are some sheets. One of them is about blanching and blanching times. What is blanching? It is the process of taking vegetables and deactivating the enzymes that are in the vegetables, and also heating up. So these beans have been blanched. Do I want to pass around beans? I don't know. But they haven't been frozen yet. They've been vacuum sealed. And the blanching process for the beans, where you are taking, where is it? So broccoli, beans, whatever. You're going to wash it. You're going to cut it up into the size that you want to eat it later. That's important. Cut it up in the size that you want to eat it later. You're bringing water to a boil and throwing the veggies in that water to boil for, well, a couple minutes. The chart will show you there's different times for different veggies. It's about 3 minutes for beans, 2 minutes for broccoli. Then you submerge them in ice water, which stops the cooling process, stops the cooking process. And then you should let them dry. I don't dry them on a sheet. I let them dry out in like a colander, a little sieve. Let the excess water drain out, and then I vacuum seal them. Again, so what this does is this. All right. Dun, 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 dun. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's a bag. It's a bag. Okay. This is like a cell inside the green bean. The green bean's made up of all these little cells. The cells have liquid in them. When you boil them, the boiling process pushes out some of the liquid from the cell. That was a lot. Pushes out. And then when you cool it, now there's less liquid in the cells. The enzymes that are in the cells have also been mostly deactivated. Those enzymes, just like the end of the cucumber, would soften the vegetable. The other thing is that we've now made more room for liquid to expand when it freezes. You know that water freezes and gets bigger. It's a weird thing. It freezes and gets bigger. This gives room for the water to freeze inside of the vegetable without splitting open the cell walls. The reason, if I just take green beans and I freeze if I take these green beans and they haven't been blanched and I freeze them without blanching them, the water that's in them will freeze as little sharp ice crystals and slice open the cell, and then when I thaw them, now it's going to be soft because the cell walls have been sliced open at a cellular level. Do we see the value in blanching? Okay, there's like a real value in it. Again, you got different cook times. You can look at these later. These are all linked in the resources. You basically are probably going to find your vegetable and be like, how do I preserve it best? How do I freeze it best? Fruits. Fruits tend to freeze. So I got these apples here. And these apples, I'm thinking ahead. I'm thinking ahead of how am I going to use them. I peeled them, I cored them, and then I coated them with a little bit of lemon juice to stop them from browning. The other thing I'm thinking about.
When you say a little bit, how much is a little bit?
So half a lemon for that. So yeah, about half a lemon for something about the size like that. If I did more than that, it'd really taste like lemon. It'd really be sour and everything. And then freezing them as is, there's a lot of air in there. There's a lot of air in there. If I can fill that air up with a syrup, leave head space for that syrup to expand, because remember, the syrup is mostly water. It's mostly water. Leave head space for that syrup to expand. Now, this is something that will flex. These types of containers, they'll flex. It's a plastic container. I could do this in glass, but I'd have to be careful about that headspace. I'd have to be careful about freezing. I don't freeze in glass, but there are a lot of people who do because they don't want to do it in plastic. The syrup that's in this is now also going to preserve texture, and it's going to sweeten things up. Now what I've got is I've kind of got frozen pie filling ready to go. All right, these, I've almost got too much sugar in here for pie filling and everything. But that's what I'm thinking ahead. I'm thinking ahead of how am I going to use this. I prepared them so that they can be used. And I'm following one of these charts. And I don't think I have the apples one here. But with many fruits, with vegetables you blanch them, with many fruits you freeze them in a syrup. So there's a syrup pack or a sugar pack, where you're coating them in sugar. And there are dry packs. So figs are one where it's they can be frozen on their own. I have this slide here because figs can be frozen 3 ways. Completely dry, unsweetened, without sugar. You can coat them in sugar and that helps to preserve them, or you can syrup pack them and freeze them. Again, you're going to get different pros and cons with each one. You're going to get more protection with the syrup coating everything, but then you've also got the fruit is covered in that syrup. So you're thinking ahead on how you're going to use them. Some of them, like grapes, can be frozen in juice and everything. So again, you're gonna find the stuff that's still in my cabinet here might be citric acid, or not necessarily the pectin, but might be citric acid. So when I'm freezing, not berries, but do you remember my picture of the peaches at the beginning? When I had the trays of peaches that I was freezing, and the bags of peaches that I was freezing, I was either using lemon juice or citric acid and some sugar. Why am I adding sugar? To offset the sourness. Again, you try this acid later. and you'll be like, without the sugar of the Sour Patch Kids, it's just sour. So I'm coating all of those peaches with an acid that stops them from browning, and I'm adding a sugar to offset the tartness of the acid. So when I'm freezing, but the berries, see, here's the thing, the berries like this, if you freeze them all in a bag, I found that blueberries and raspberries, and all of these berries, they're very soft-walled, especially when they're ripe. If you put them all in a bag and freeze them, the juices come out and they freeze this one big lump, which can be fine. It depends on what you're going to use them for later. If you're going to be making jam with them later, who cares? All right? Because you're just going to be cooking them anyway. But if I wanted to make smoothies with this, if I wanted to scoop them out, I do freeze them. I freeze them like this on a tray with some parchment or some, many times just even on the tray themselves. I freeze them just so the outside is frozen. And once the outside is frozen, then I combine them in the bag. And all that. So again, peaches, blah, blah, blah. Again, we'll look at this. Okay, all right. So meats and stuff like that. Oh my God.
Before
Yeah.
you go on to the meat, I was just looking at those charts, and they recommended, when you're freezing apples, the one I read was apples,
Yep.
that you use fresh fruit something in a jar, balls, fresh fruit. What's that?
It's like this citric acid. It's their own so that's from the Ball book. So of course they're recommending a Ball product.
Yeah.
It's basically citric acid plus sugar. Remember how I do citric acid and I do a sugar, or I do lemon and I do a sugar? They have a product called fresh fruit, and it has the sugar and the acid all in one. You're kind of, you're not getting as much of this is the better bang for your buck. This plus the bulk sugar that you have at home. Yeah. So meats and all, freezing meats, one of my pet peeves is when we buy meat and then somebody in the house just puts it all in a bag and freezes it all. And then you have to thaw all of it in order to get that one bit that's for the meal. I am somebody who, I like to trim it all first, do the trimming first on the cutting board, then kind of pat dry them, wrap them in saran wrap. The saran wrap is going to create a layer around them. The air is going to be less likely to be in contact with each one of them, but also this one won't freeze and stick to that chicken breast. All right? Then I can take these and put them both in the same bag together, and then I can pull one chicken breast out at a time. All right? So same thing. You buy a bunch of steaks. One of the big enemies with freezing stuff is air. And so that's where it's like, if freezing is one of your things, freezing is one of my things, it is worth getting a vacuum sealer. Like this little thing here, man. Oh my God. So it's got a little pocket that holds the types of bags and everything for you. So this one happens to be a food saver one. It's like not 20, but probably like 15 years old. This is an old model. I bought on eBay. 25 bucks. Shipping included. Gently used. So I got that like little thing here. The first thing I end up doing is kind of locking it down, and I hit the seal button on this until the little red light goes away. Pretty easy. Come on. Go away. Go away, red light. There we go. And what that did was it created a seal on one part of that. This happens to have you can cut these bags to any size you want. Has a little thing in there that slices that for you. And I got a little bag to mess around with. And it's got a seal at this end. So then, my God, like vacuum sealing. Remember my beans? These are kind of dry and everything. Now I don't want to, I almost did it. I want to avoid getting liquid on like that. So I'm good. Yeah. I want to avoid getting liquid on the plastic. So This is where it's like, I could have used a bigger bag. I totally could have used a bigger bag. But, and then now I got a funnel. It's a cutting board and a funnel. So when I'm filling this up, it's like, I'm gonna press my luck. No whammies. Okay, so I'm hoping that I can kind of get them all in there. I probably should have made the bag like a little, but I'm hoping that I could squeeze them down. You remember like the 90s, Sunday morning, and like there were like all these infomercials on TV when this thing was like invented and around? Dude, they're all like on YouTube. You find the model that you bought, you go to YouTube and you watch the video. You're watching me do an infomercial, but wait, there's more. And I'm trying to keep this relative. So if I'm doing meats and stuff like that, I don't want the juices to get up in here. Or I get a paper towel and I'm trying to like dry that out so that when I put this back in here, I've got enough room to get, oh, that little bean moved, to get a seal. I lock it in and then, oh, not a good seal. No, that. Now it's got a pulse function and it's also got a vacuum and seal function. Which one do you want, a vacuum and seal or a pulse? Which one do you want? Which one? I know. If I hit vacuum and seal, it's going to automatically just go, fine. It's the dummy version. It's trying to pull out as much air as possible. I know, it's amazing. And then the little red light goes on again. Demo version. Red light's off. Now, when I open this up, see, here's the thing. It pulled liquid out up here because it was on automatic. Do you see why I'd use the pulse version? The pulse one is where I'm going, oh, I see the liquid's moving, stop. All right, so this is one where it's like, I mean, it's holding. Nah, the food's moving, right? Food's moving. A little bit of air is getting in there. So what could I do with this? I could try to do another seal, try to do another vacuum. I could take this and just put it in another bag. That's what I usually do. I'm just like, oh, what the hell? Just put it in another bag. All right, so here's the thing. I got these berries. This little thing works on like these little bags too. Yeah. Did you know they work on like chip bags? Oh, what? Let's see. Okay. It is about like getting like, great. Oh no. You know what I mean. All right. But I've had my kids open up. So here's the one thing I wanted to say with this is that these are blackberries. I'm going to want to pulse these. If I put it on the vacuum thing, it's just going to completely turn them into juice. Anyway, the vacuum sealer is like, it is priceless for bulk buying. Do you guys got a Costco up here? Or BJ's or whatever. You got places where you got a local butcher shop where you can buy like a lot of stuff all at once. You get out the patty paper, you make your burger and all that jazz, and you freeze them up. We had turkeys. I know, we had 6 turkeys last year. They were broad-breasted turkeys. They can't mate on their own. So it was our first year doing turkeys. So we raised them on pasture and that little thing. Moved it around. I moved that thing every day for 20 weeks. So that they would get on fresh grass and they would never, if I left that in one spot, the grass would eventually die and they'd be walking in their own filth. So it's to give them that quality of life and to fertilize the grass all around my yard. So, yep, my friend John came over and that was a tough day. Turkeys are dumb. Turkeys are like, hey, and they walk, like I keep chickens all the time. I've never kept an animal that like wanted to be near me so much.
It's like a dog.
But like a dog. Yeah, they would follow my kids around the yard. I don't think I got the picture of them following the kids around the yard. They were delightful. And so we are planning on keeping turkeys as a breeding trio, a tom and 2 hens, and then letting them raise eggs, and then we're going down that road. We are going down that road where 3 of them get to live out their lives. But here's what I wanted to say, is that I took that turkey and then I butchered it into pieces. I didn't freeze the whole turkey as a whole turkey. Now, it was like, literally, I still got turkey in my freezer because each one was 22 pounds. I kept 4, my friend John kept 2. We had 88 pounds of turkey in the freezer. cut into breasts, into grillable pieces and everything, and then the carcasses for soups and everything.
How'd you get the
That
feathers off?
the vacuum season. Oh well, that's a whole other class. No, yeah. Again, yeah, my friend John knows how to do it, but he'd never done turkeys before. And we started, and we only got 2 done in one afternoon, and we're like, okay, we need a whole different game plan versus chickens. And then we did the other 4. No. That was the thing, is that not many people do turkeys and talk about how to do turkeys. The timing of everything is all different. The scale's all different. We actually couldn't find good videos. Anyway, the vacuum sealer was great. I bought one of these junky, cruddy ones from like Amazon. Go with a name brand one. This one just stopped working almost nearly immediately. That one, that is an older model that I got for cheap. It's been built to last. Get a name brand one is what I'm saying. You can look at these pictures later. When we are freezing things, if you're even going with regular bags, freezer bags do make a difference. They have a double zipper on the top.
Yeah.
If you get liquid in that zipper, when you zip it, that liquid freezes and breaks the seal. So it's just as important to make sure that when you're filling those bags, you're not getting liquid in those seals. And it's important to try and squeeze out as much air as possible. Air is what creates freezer burn on
So
stuff.
this machine is really invaluable.
I love it. And you know, and I will say something like, you know, I had different bag sizes. This is the largest bag that goes 11 inches, and then these small ones. So I use these small ones for, yeah, I can really see the air's, you see how that's an improper seal. Will this freeze fine enough? Yes, but not for a solid like year. This will probably only be good for about a month or so before it starts to get freezer burn. So it depends on how nitpicky. But again, I love that thing. All right, containers and everything. I went down the road of, I invested, because we do lots of soups. I invested in these like style, they're cheap, they're inexpensive. The restaurant containers, they're food grade. I like those versus some of the glass ones and the bins.
Do you reuse those after?
The bags.
No,
The
these? Plastic.
Oh yeah.
The containers.
Yeah. I toss them in the dishwasher, and then I got a whole cabinet that's just full of those. And I like those because they're all like the same size, lids are all compatible. I found one brand where it's like, well, I bought the different sizes, the quarts, the pints, and the whatever, all in one brand, so all the tops fit. And then when we get takeout, I don't allow the takeout ones in with my mix because the cap's just a little different.
Yeah.
So, no, it's details. It's details. All right, let's move on to dehydrating. We're there. This is the home stretch, folks. All right. And this one's fast. You've already been here for an hour and a half. Oh my God. So dehydrating is basic, but this. Okay. So a book like this, the Dehydrator Cookbook, is one that, if you're interested in this, I was teaching this class up in Boston, and out of all these methods, there were a few people in the audience who were like, dehydrating is our way. We can have that one dehydrator in the cabinet, dehydrate stuff, and then it's not taking up refrigerator space. All right, we can dehydrate stuff, and then we have these things from our community garden that are dehydrated, the beans, the herbs and everything, and then we can put them all together and make soups out of them and reconstitute them in water. I like dehydrating my herbs, and I like dehydrating my fruits as snacks. That's my personal thing. So that's a lot of, and my mushrooms. So yeah, lots of this stuff.
What did you say about mushrooms?
I like dehydrating mushrooms.
Yeah.
So if I were to do something like chamomile, by the way, chamomile, buy a packet of chamomile seeds. Do that. And you'll have chamomile forever in your yard, in your garden, all these fun little spots. It's not like a weed, but it'll show up. You'll be like, oh. All right, anyway. Chamomile is a delightful thing, but it's the flavors in it are so delicate that I'm not going to be like hanging these up to dry. I'm going to be just picking the heads and then laying them out on newsprint to dehydrate, just in like the corner of the kitchen with an airflow and everything. So I'm just going to do that. While things like mushrooms, these mushrooms have a lot of water content. This is chaga, it doesn't have a lot of water content. This one's almost like dried on its own, ready enough, but a wild mushroom. But this one that I'm growing, the shiitakes have a lot of water content. They kind of need to be dehydrated in a dehydrator. Some people dehydrate things in their oven. We're in Connecticut, and I think that's like if you're using your oven to dehydrate stuff in the summer while you got your air conditioning on, that's a really poor use of your energy. The method is that you like put the oven on its lowest setting, you fill the racks up, and you leave the door open so that fresh air can come in and out. Buy a dehydrator. If you want to go this method, buy a dehydrator. Don't do that. That's dumb. But herbs and stuff, the end of the season, I'm going around to all my herbs and I'm cutting them and I'm bundling them, not with twine. If I bundle them with twine, as they dehydrate, the stems get thinner and they all fall. Rubber bands. Rubber bands, they keep getting tighter as they dehydrate and hold them. And then I am finding a cool, dark place. You have to ask yourself, what places do you have that are not in direct sunlight? Sunlight will degrade these and are not in a humid environment. Do you have a workshop or a garage that's open to the air? That's going to be humid in Connecticut, in Massachusetts too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep saying Connecticut, but you know what I mean. We got humid summers. We got humid and wet falls. We want to dehydrate. Do you have a basement that is dry? Yes, that would be. If you don't have a basement and it's like moist under, you can't do, find a bathroom, find another place to hang these up, a curtain rod or something like that, or a shower rod. But I am hanging these in my basement because my basement is finished. And really it's like in a couple weeks when I go over to these and I take the leaf and it just like kind of crumbles in my hand, it's dry. And that's now ready to process. I show you a picture of processing a little later. Grapes is something that I grow a lot of. And, I made raisins one year.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah, so I set this up in the greenhouse with one fan, and that wasn't enough. So then I put more fans, and we're in an area that's too humid. It's the reason why they're California raisins. This whole thing turned into mold. I know, I didn't really make raisins. So
All that work.
I built one, that's not one that I built, but so you can find designs for these solar dehydrators. They won't work in our area. It's too humid. So the way this works is you need to be in an area where you don't have humid air. The sun hits a black surface that warms up air that's in here, and it rises and dehydrates the trays. It's a great design, but it doesn't work here. You know how we carry around these all the time? We take pictures all the time? I built one of these about 15, 20 years ago when I didn't have this all, and I don't have pictures of the one I built because I built it. The whole thing turned into a mold chamber, and I lit the thing on fire in my fire pit. I was so pissed that I built that. I destroyed it. So no, but I mean, it's a lesson. Don't build it. Don't build it. We're in Connecticut. Okay? Massachusetts. We're in Massachusetts. Okay. A dehydrator is the way to go. If you're going to do herbs, I would be laying those herbs out with a sacrificial layer. The heating element that's on the bottom of these, so whether you get one that's like this or the round ones, those are going to be the inexpensive dehydrators. The trays, the trays are all stacked low, but if you alternate them, it adds more room. The round ones, you just turn them, and so this is one where now you get more space while you're drying things.
Is it better to have more space?
Yeah, to have more space for air. Even this one turns and gives more space on that top part. So you see how it's got peach. I just washed all the trays in the in the dishwasher, but the base of it has peach syrup that's dried. So it's like, anyway, the heating element that's on the bottom, it pushes warm, hot air up over the food, and the air exits the top. The air exits the top with the moisture that's pulling out of the food. This is great. It's a good design. This one is one of those cheapo ones. Remember how I said I bought one on Amazon? It's cheap, the vacuum sealer. This one was a cheapo one, and it's not a name brand, and it's been working this whole time. So it might be worth a try for you, because it's just a fan and a heating element. Now, this is all in Celsius, but it's okay. The temperature is. I don't want the herbs near that heating element. I prefer to hang dry my herbs, but if I was going to do a small batch, I would turn the heat all the way down to nothing, as low as it goes, and just kick on the fan, and that is what I would do. All right, so with aromatics and stuff like that. Yeah. What are those? Mushrooms. Mushrooms, I do the same thing. One little sacrificial layer. And then things that are like very moist, like your fruits and stuff, I pack those right to the top. But I won't do this. So this is like on Amazon, they show you all the things that you could dehydrate in here. You're not going to put different things in the dehydrator all at once. They'll dry at different rates. the best practice is you dehydrate all of one thing in the dehydrator. Then when that batch is done and cured and everything, you switch it out. And so yeah, otherwise the flavors mix and everything. I got some apples that I sliced up. I coated them with some cinnamon and some lemon juice. No, not lemon juice. If I put lemon juice on this, that'd be adding more liquid. Citric acid, yeah, everybody is saying citric acid, something along that line. There's other ones. But so citric acid and then a little bit of sugar to offset the citric acid. When I'm putting these in the tray, I am just making sure that each one has its own little space. I'm a human and I slice these. That's different thicknesses. Ideally, we want them to be roughly the same thickness. Things that are going to be a little thicker, so let's see, this one, it's a big honkin' thick one. I'm gonna wanna put that a little closer to the middle. And something that's thin like that, I'm gonna put that a little closer to the edge, away from the airflow. And so when I'm thinking about this tray, I'm just kind of thinking of how is air moving through that? How is it going to dehydrate it? And I'm trying, honestly, like that's kind of about what it is. I'm not letting them touch. I'm not letting them overlap. I want space so that when they dry, nothing is touching. If you pack it and you overlap your food, you're going to be heating this up with hot air and you won't be able to get the moisture out of there fast enough and you will create a mold chamber. I'm gonna wash my hands, but, because they're sticky. So remember me and my peaches. The first time I used this, I packed that thing full of peaches. Overlap and burn, jammed it packed, and the whole thing, I left it overnight. By the time I came back in the morning, the whole thing was filled with mold. But dishwasher safe, put it all in the dishwasher. Now, you know, it's still the same thing. So we're not mixing things. If you really like this, and you've never heard of this, and you really like going down this direction, the big models that have these trays, they have a heating element in the back. These are like the industrial, kitchen grade, not kitchen, restaurant sized ones, where they might be dehydrating lots of things, concentrating flavors and everything. So, oh yeah, peaches, oh my God. The citric acid, tossing it in the bowl, getting them, that's, when I look at this is one where they're not all sliced the same thickness. I should have done a better job of like slicing them so that they dehydrate at the same rate. What I tend to do to get this at the end, they're not brown, they're good, is that when this is packed, I'll set it overnight, let it dehydrate overnight. The stuff on the bottom shelf is going to be the most dry. And the stuff on the top is not going to be dry enough. So I switch them and I take the whole stack off. And I take the top one, do you get it, what I mean? Take the top one, put it on the bottom, and I just restack them in the opposite order. And then typically by the time I come home from work, the batch has finished dehydrating. And everything is dehydrated. Now, there's a thing called,
How do you have time to work with all?
I know. Now, this bag of peaches, all right? When they came out of the dehydrator, they were warm. I put them in this Ziploc bag, zipped it up. And the next thing I'm looking for the next day is to see if moisture condenses on the inside. If I see moisture on that bag, that's a sign that I need to put them back in the dehydrator. The other thing is that I leave them in this bag and I shake that bag up the next day, taking ones that might be a little over dry and ones that are a little less dry and putting them near each other, and the moisture distributes so that they become perfect dry. So it's the same thing that our cannabis growers do. So anyway, they condition their food. If you're packing those in glass, you wouldn't pack it all the way full, you'd pack it a little part way full so that you could give the whole jar a shake to redistribute them. And conditioning is something that you tend to do for a few days at least to make sure that there's not excess moisture. Again, you're looking to see if there's moisture, and if there is moisture, put it in the dehydrator for a little longer. The timing on this really ranges. It depends on how much moisture there is in the food. Yeah, that's my herbs that I dehydrated one year. That was a lot. That was when I had a CSA and everybody got little portions of those herbs in like little sachets and stuff like that. if you're drying herbs, how do you process those? Well, you've got the dried stems and leaves and everything. Get a tote. Get a tote, put it down, shake the heck out of the thing, rub those leaves off. And then there's the process of picking out all the little stems. So just know, if you're going down this road, you're either going to be getting like little sieves and screens, or you're going to be sitting down like I do at my kitchen table with newsprint, and I take a little section, I plop it on the newsprint, and I pull out the good leaves and push the sticks and stems to the other side. And so what I have here is bags of herbs that have sticks and stuff, little stems in them that need to be further refined. It's so nice what we get at the grocery store. The herbs that we get from the grocery store have already been done for us, but, I mean, look at all this. This is cilantro that has gone to seed. This is coriander. Now I've got a ton of coriander to just toss in the stuff, whole or grind it up. This is sweet leaf, stevia.
Say it again?
Stevia, sweet leaf. It goes under lots of different names. It doesn't have sugar in it, but it's a sugar substitute.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it looks like?
Yeah. You buy one plant at the beginning of the year, let it grow the whole summer, and it's like this tall. Chop it, you get a bag.
So do you use that to sweeten things?
Do I use that to sweeten things? Yeah. I'll use it in teas and stuff like that. That's about it, folks. Thank you. We'll do that.